until they produce the answers that you get through ChatGPT and all of the other LLMs. So this is so much for it. Now I'll take you with this introduction about the importance of AI in education. And this powerful tool, which is the LLM, the new architecture, the transformer. I will introduce you to some projects I have given to my students in the NLP course, Natural Language Processing course. It's a one-semester course. As you probably know, in our school, ENSCA, it's an ingénieur, and in 5 years, it's a 5-year program. And in the 4th year, like this semester I'm teaching this course, NLP, the students take this course among other courses. And we have in all of our courses, in fact, especially AI, computer science, security, and so on, we always have projects, quite substantial projects. So I'll give you an idea of the kinds of projects that I give in this course, and you will see how we can build interesting things. So the course is 3 hours of lectures a week, plus 3 hours of lab work. But the lab work is just practice of the different topics that we teach including transformers, LLMs, mass LLMs, and so on. But we give them the project that they work on it. In fact, in teams of, in teams of 4 to 6 students, they work on a project which is fairly substantial during the 14 weeks, roughly, of the project. What are the requirements? What do I want them to learn during the project? First, thoroughly understand NLP and the technology, the latest technology, which is LLMs, fine-tuning, and these aspects. Collecting data. Just yesterday, some students were telling me we realized how important collecting and curating data is important in AI. They told me otherwise it's just including some lines of code which imports this data once curated, prepared, and so on, and we run it. So they understood that there is a huge amount of work to be done on the data that they collect, and it has to be as rich as possible, as refined as possible. So they do all the pre-processing. They learn during the labs the different pre-processings of the data that they need to do in terms of data cleaning, segmentation, tokenization, stemming, etc. Working on the different bits and pieces of sentences of the corpus. And possibly some OCR technologies sometimes, depending on the topic, they needed also to include some OCR technologies, AI-based OCR technology. Then they need to evaluate different LLMs, they benchmark them, they select, they evaluate them, they adapt and fine-tune the best among them on the data that they have collected, and they need to build in the project an application, usually mobile application or web, or sometimes both. I require to do a web application and a mobile application as a result, which uses the fine-tuned LLM that they have developed for the application that I have asked them about. And at the end, of course, they produce a video about their project, they go through a demo, Q&A, etc. So this is done during 14 weeks, while they are taking all the other courses, 6 courses altogether during this semester. The topics that I have given them, are, well, some of them, not because I give them quite a number of projects, of topics, and just 2 or 3 teams will compete on the same topic. I don't want to have too much redundancy. So, an application for improving a learner's Arabic vocabulary. Another for improving a learner's Arabic reading comprehension. So how to adapt reading comprehension of text to the learner. Teaching history curriculum, Algerian history curriculum, developing a system that helps learn the Arabic, the history, the Algerian history curriculum. التاريخ المدرس في سنوات التعليم. How it is presented to learners. I will show some examples. Generating Arabic stories for kids, aligned with our cultural values. A system, kids show recommending kids shows. Also aligned with our culture, not just any shows that get recommended to them. A tool to improve a university's or university students' English to Arabic and Arabic to English translation. So students who learn translation, a tool that helps them improve their English to Arabic, Arabic to English translation. A system for the conversion of Arabic dialect into modern standard Arabic. A system for Arabic literary, and I think this is an interesting project, literary style transfer between eras. Transforming or converting, translating a text written in one era, for example, العصر الجاهلي, into modern Arabic, or vice versa. Of course, we are interested. They showed me some examples of texts written in the early centuries after Islam, which are extremely difficult to understand. And if we have a tool that can translate into modern standard Arabic, it will make it much easier for people to understand, and it will bring to light a lot of the richness of our civilization. Using LLMs to detect cyberbullying in Algerian dialect. So these are some of the topics that were given to the students. Now, improving Arabic vocabulary. I will make it short. All these projects, the students, as I explained, they collected a lot of data. They worked on them using tools and using manually to cure the data, to clean it as much as possible, to double check it with some experts, okay? And obviously they evaluated different LLMs. Different teams evaluated different LLMs. They selected which one gave the best results. They fine-tuned it on their data, and then they built an application on it. Software application, web-based, mobile application. And each component was designed, and this is the most important thing. Oops. I'm sorry, I have two laptops. Each component was designed to optimize the learning experience of the students. So different exercises where they can see the content. The students, for example, if they're learning history, they will learn some of the content that is presented to them. Some exercises are given to them about historical events, about individual characters, so like politicians and so on, to test the learning, and then they grow in terms of their competencies. I will skip the details because I gave an overall explanation about all the projects. I will just show you some examples. This is a project, I'm naming the students, the team of students, just to give them credit. It's not me, it's them. This is one application to learn the vocabulary. So, اكتشف كلمات جديدة. I don't have the laser here. In the second from the left, اكتشف كلمات تعلم بطريقة ممتعة، اكتشف كلمات جديدة، آداب عام، علوم، فن, different categories of where they could learn the vocabulary. They can give them خمن الكلمة, they suggest a word, and these words grow with the complexity. So they have been organized by levels using the AI tool. So the whole vocabulary was classified, the classification was learned from the data, And then we get different levels of difficulty, and then by categories, scientific categories, and so on. So some exercises get suggested. On the rightmost, they have some words and some definitions, and they try to match the words with the definitions. So they try to understand the vocabulary, show that they are mastering the vocabulary, and so on. So possibly it's smallish, at least smallish for my eyes. And then the learner gradually builds on his or her dictionary, what they have learned, what they have mastering. They have a chat box on the right-hand side, so they can chat. For example, here it says, "اشرح كلمة آهن" or "ah." And then it gets all the explanations. Possibly it's not readable there. كلمة آه هي كلمة تعبيرية تستخدم للتعبير عن مجموعة من المشاعر، etc. Then it gives الألم والانزعاج، الدهشة والإعجاب, and it gives some explanations and so on. So the chatbot allows the learner to get some explanations before they get some exercises to ask them about different words and so on. So the chatbot is an additional tool which has been fine-tuned for the learners' levels, etc. And you get evaluations and they get statistics about how they are performing. التحدي النهائي للمستوى التحدي النهائي للمستوى المتوسط. So there are different levels for learning vocabulary. This was another team working on the same project of learning vocabulary. And again, they have طريقة التقدم. I told you about scaffolding, which is part of the adaptive learning systems, and each learner has to go through different steps of learning, and each time they get exercises, they get some words that they need to understand, etc. كلمة قوي, for example, examples of using them: الفيل حيوان قوي، الجندي قوي ويدافع عن وطنه, and so on. So in a simplified way, different words from the vocabulary are presented, and then some new words are added to the dictionary of the learner. Another exercise is given on the same project. Exercises given to fill in the gaps, for example. The images got generated automatically by the LLM given the sentences that are suggested. So as the LLM suggests an exercise and then some sentences, the accompanying images are also generated. For example here, أكمل الفراغ بالكلمات التالية: عاقين المسجد القرآن الصلاة, and then they get sentences and they try to hit the word. These are for younger kids, like in elementary school and so on. All this is done using the LLM technology. An application for improving the learner's reading comprehension of Arabic, the same idea. They get some content. They can select to read different books from what has been prepared for them, and then they can select from different topics, العلوم الإسلامية, الجغرافيا, etc. They can select to read texts in these areas, خيارات متعددة, and then they get different exercises. كانت مصر القديمة حضارة قديمة، نشأت على ضفاف نهر النيل, and so on, and then they get some questions. So slowly, how they can understand text and get questions about it. And they try أين نشأت حضارة مصر القديمة, and so on. And they answer, then it gets evaluated, and they get statistics about their results, etc. لغتي is another project. the same idea always. The learner interacts with selected Arabic passages. It's another project about reading comprehension, Arabic reading comprehension. And then step 2, answering multiple choice questions using everything is generated by the LLM. The text, the questions, the choices, and the evaluation. And then generation of feedback, المرحلة المكتملة, and so on. They get some statistics about their results, and whatever feedback they would get from the LLM about the errors that they made. Teaching history, the Algerian history curriculum, same thing. The students can learn the Algerian curriculum. المنهاج التاريخ في المدارس الجزائرية. And they get different topics, الدروس التعليمية. Of course, depending on the level of the student, they would get different lessons. They, for example, if they select الكتلة الغربية in this case, they will get, I'm sorry, it's smallish. They get some explanations about الكتلة الغربية, then they may select الشمال الأطلسي, NATO. They get more, this is more about NATO. And then they may get some questions, multiple choice questions that ask them about the lecture that they have just read, etc. And they get some exercises about answering different events. So it may tell them when did this happen, or this date, what happened on this date, etc. And on the right-hand side, it's زيارة نيكسون إلى موسكو. On the right-hand side, زيارة موسكو إلى موسكو. And so they remember different dates. They try to answer these kinds of exercises. Another type of exercise is to show them different politicians or personalities that they read about in the content, and then they get some definitions there, and they try to match who is who, and the learner answers the question. Some may be correct in green, others in red, and they get evaluated according to this. A project that I really like is this one, a system for the generation of Arabic stories for kids. I think we all empathize or sympathize with young kids who go into the internet and they get stories, or we see the books that we find which are not necessarily tuned to their levels and to our culture, our Arabo-Islamic culture, or Arabo-Amazigh-Islamo cultures. So there are values. It's called cultural alignment, and this is one of the challenges today with large language models. Cultural alignment. So, for example, this project, they generate. By the way, these students, based on the project that they did in the course, they got their paper accepted in an international conference. So the learner may ask to get some story. Either they generate a story randomly, or they may select some topic. I want a story about whatever. The story gets generated. So as you see, إنشاء قصة. Customized, that is the learner will decide. Or إنشاء قصة عشوائية, this is what the students wrote, randomly just select a story for me. There is a profiling of the kid as they learn. The system starts learning what this this learner likes. On the left-hand side, from the likes, it builds the profile of the learner. The story in the middle gets generated. An image gets also generated using the LLM. And مغزى القصة, also gets generated using the LLMs. The kind of short summary, what is the purpose of the story, and on the same topic, another project, by the way, there is also a possibility of listening to the story. The speech also gets generated using an LLM. The same thing, something similar here in this project. Generating stories for kids. And they can select among topics, they can decide, etc. on different topics. For example, من الفئة العمرية من 9 إلى 10 سنوات، من 6 سنوات، من 3 إلى 5 سنوات، مواضيع الوفاة، المساعدة, etc. Or they can generate, this is what I want the story about. And then you may have a story like this, something showing like a grandmother reading the story. They can use the speech generator to listen to the story. To sum up, so we have shown how the main idea is that this technology can be used if we collaborate, or if enough people in our universities and our engineers and so on, AI experts, if we collaborate with a vision of building a new paradigm of teaching, we can have some good results for our kids, for our learners. I've shown things mostly for kids at different levels, even high school. I've shown an example at the university, translation students, but it can be generalized to use this technology very productively, the LLMs, to build a new way of looking at the education. And it can be an important tool that supports both the learner and the teacher. Now, okay, lessons learned, the students did a marvelous job. There were some challenges. Among the challenges, limited availability of high-quality Arabic content. They had to do a lot of work. If we had people working together with this vision of building a new education system, then we would have experts from Arabic language, from different disciplines, who would be working together, building this Arabic content that can be used as data for training our LLMs. Need for qualified professionals, human experts in Arabic language, in history, and so on. Need for powerful data centers. And I think this is what many of us are suffering from. And well, lately we acquired our data center at the school. So AI is not science fiction. I think we have the capacity to master it and use it productively. There does not seem to be a tangible, reasonable effort on the path to the new technologies in our Algerian education. It's not just using computers. This AI is going like a tsunami. If we do not start yesterday, not today, we will be on the side of this huge development and fast-paced development. We are only at the point of talking about paperless universities. People are talking about new paradigms of education. So we need to move fast. I don't want to take too much of the time. There is a lot to be done. We have no choice but to start. We need to think about the problem as a major structuring project, changing education. Okay? Infrastructure, data centers, PCs, etc., it should come. Nothing is too expensive if we want to transform a whole country, a whole education system. And what is it? A few tens of millions of dollars? What is it in the budget of the country? Computer network linking universities and research centers with high bandwidth. So these universities should be working together, collaborating through these data centers and networking. Software development, I talked about the budget that is being put on software development, AI-based software development. And we can do a lot. The Indians are not smarter than the Algerian students, but they are doing a lot in terms of their contribution to the world. We need, of course, data policy, security, confidentiality, collection, sharing, AI ethics, and what I always call for, a prototype of a smart university. And we mean it, a prototype of a smart university with a clear vision what should be included in terms of programs, in terms of digitization, etc., using digitization and using AI. And if we have such a prototype working well, it could be جامعة الشهيد العربي والإنجليزي. It could be the starting point. I get this feeling each time I talk about Al-Shuhada. And that could be the start of a big transformation.
Thank you, Professor, for interesting and valuable presentation. Before we give the occasion to the assistants, I would start by the panel. And Mr. Buttercook, Professor Buttercook, have some questions, seems.
Assalamu alaikum. First, I would like to Professor Qasum to be here with us to share with us his experience. I also thank you for this interesting keynote. I have some questions, if you permit. My first question is about, we can say that it is a shift paradigm in education. As you know, in Algeria we have many problems. My first question, how can we adapt existing models, LLM models, in our education system? My first question. My second question.
Barakallahu, this is a key question. How do we translate all of these ideas into practical programs? What I always insist on is that I do not believe in replacing teachers. That is not the point. I think of this technology as a supportive model. So if we think of a new paradigm where the students have some AI-based material that the instructors have built in advance, of course after training, after development, etc., etc. Supposing we have such products, suppose I'm teaching, I'm supposed to be teaching whatever, programming or Tariq al-Jazair or grammar, Arabic grammar. Then we have these modules. We would ask the students, work on them individually. And then when they come to class, whether it is a lab, whether it is a tutorial, whether it is in an amphitheater, then they come prepared. And they will find it attractive. They will possibly learn better or be prepared for the lecture. So we spend less time on developing every single detail and possibly just going over the main points and possibly taking the questions of the students. So it will help us kind of handle la massification des universités. We are getting more and more students. So this way we could be joining forces between the instructor with his or her experience, with his or her knowledge. Then they will get some feedback about the levels of the different students, and they will be able to deal with them more on an individual basis and help them more on an individual basis. But of course this is just on the fly. It requires, I always call for you, having think tanks. Think tends to be thinking about how to introduce such a technology in the classrooms, whether it is in preliminary, primary school, juniors, in high school, or at university level. But it has, I see it as a complementary work between the tools that I call to develop and the instructors themselves.